Hey, how's it going everyone? My name is Aaron, and in this video, I'm going to be going over my last year doing the starting strength program. I'll talk about where I started from, my end results, some of the challenges and things I overcame along the way. The reason why I'm making this video is because over the last year doing the starting strength program, I've really transformed myself through lifting heavy, and it's been really impactful for me in my personal development. And so when I started the program, I would watch a lot of content around the starting strength program, people's results, what they experienced in 6 months, 12 months. And I thought, hey, listen, I did it for 1 year really consistently and I saw a lot of results. And so I thought maybe it'd be really helpful for someone else to see my perspective and on my last year doing starting strength. For those of you who don't know starting strength, it is a program developed by Mark Rippeteau, who he's on like the Mount Rushmore of strength training. And he's real old school barbell type of style, and the concept is of the novice linear progression is adding weight to the bar every time so that you continually PR and you can get as strong as possible as fast as possible. I realized there's a lot of content there's a lot of material. I read the blue book, which was written by Mark Rippeteau, and it got me really inspired to try it. So I started in June of 2023, kind of consistently doing the novice linear progression. My starting PRs were 205 in the squat, bench press of 160, overhead press of 105, and a deadlift of 215. Now these were with reps, about 5 each, and my body weight was 224. Now these were the PRs that I had on my own. As soon as I really wanted to start taking it seriously, I actually hired an online coach. Basically what I do is I film all my sets, I send it to them, and then they review the lifts and then give me feedback the next day. My coach was able to see all the errors I was making in my form, my knee slide, setting my back correctly on the deadlift, right, my elbows flaring in the bench, stuff like that, and was able to really help me progress and tweak my programming in order to continually add weight to the bar. My form was not too good. And as soon as I started working with the coach, the first thing the coach did was, listen, we got to go back on the weight. So I started, practicing with really light weights, maybe 135 on the deadlift, right, 95 on the squat, just to really kind of dial in the form as best I can before I can continually make progress. And so the form is something that I really struggled with. The coach was really fundamental to my development. And so I would highly recommend it if you can afford it. It was, in my opinion, very reasonably priced for an online coach for all the benefit you do get. So after 1 year, now it's June of 2024, I've really dialed in, especially on my form. I've gotten a lot better. There's a lot of ups and downs, not consistently just all the way up. Most of it is like this, but a lot of it is a little bit like this, especially on certain lifts. But this is where I'm currently at, and some of these are for a couple reps, but some of these are also just for singles. Now, I didn't test my singles out in the beginning because, of course, I didn't want to go really heavy. I didn't know if my form was there adequate enough. But now I'm prepping actually for my first powerlifting meet this Saturday. I'm really excited about that. Having that as a goalpost to start really dialing in my training has been really helpful over the last few months. So since then, I've been really practicing my singles to do heavy singles as best I can. So currently my PRs are for a squat, 375. For bench press, 225. For a press, it's 135. And then a deadlift is 430. So overall, tremendous amount of progress, especially my squat and my deadlift. My squat going from 205 to 375, 175 or 170 pounds on the bar was really cool to me. Squat's something that's I really, you love and hate. Like it's very tough mentally to do heavy squats all the time, but it's the best way forward for strength, right? My deadlift too, doubling my deadlift essentially, right? Going from 215 to 430. Was awesome. Really proud of that achievement, especially now that my form's gotten a lot better. And so it's been really fun. I think deadlifts now are my favorite lifts. They definitely weren't at the start of this, but that's okay. It is what it is. In June of 2024, which is where we are now, those are my lifts. My current body weight, 250 now, is where I'm hovering at. Most of my weight gain started in the first 6 months. In terms of my eating throughout the program, I was kind of, off and on. I'd eat as much as I want. I didn't really care. And I figured, hey, listen, the more you eat, the more you can lift. And so I added 25 pounds. Of course, not all of that was muscle. A good majority maybe, but not all for sure. So maybe I can use a little bit of cleaner eating or a cut. But super happy with where I ended up because I feel really confident now. My arms are a lot bigger. I noticed a lot on my chest. Really consistently ate well. If no one's ever done that before, if you've ever dirty bulked or ate just to excess while lifting heavy, it's a great way to live. I would highly recommend it. Super fun. My sleeping was off and on, mostly good. But overall in that 1 year, that 12-month period, three times a week was essentially the program. I probably missed 3 or 4 weeks. And when I say missed, I mean one lift in that week. 3 or 4 times in 1 year, 3 or 4 weeks, I did only 2 lifts instead of 3. So that's what I mean by missing a week. And sometimes it happened because I was traveling or I got sick. Most of the time I stayed really, really consistent, and I'd highly recommend you do the same. Don't miss lifts, be consistent, schedule the time for it. It will be worth it in the end. So in terms of challenges that I faced overall, there are a bunch. It was not an easy straight line of progression the whole way through, as much as we want it to be that way, right? There was a time right before I was hitting 3 plates. I was getting into a little bit of groove. I was close to hitting 3 plates on the deadlift. I was super excited about it. And right before then, maybe I was just 310, I think I was at, I tweaked my back. It really sucked. For a few days, I was in pain just sitting down, lower back. It wasn't the easiest for me, but it is what it is, right? And so my coach had me basically doing light RDLs to warm up the back, light squats, still keeping all the lifts the same, but just more lighter and lighter, and working my way back up. So I think around September is when I tweaked my back, right before 3 plates. It took me maybe 2.5 months from going light all the way back up to catch up where I was. So I kept consistent, kept lifting, didn't want to stop. Also, you want to make sure you keep your muscles warm and moving. Once I did make it back to 3 plates, my form had improved a lot. My back felt healthy again. Everything was looking good, and I kept that novice linear progression. I would throw in a little bit of accessory movements. My coach had me doing some rows here and there. I haven't done any of the clean and jerks part of the program just because I'm not there in person to have someone teach me. It's a little bit more complicated as a movement, and I don't want to mess that stuff up. Now, the mental aspect of it is something that I didn't hear a lot of people on YouTube talk about this, and I wanted to mention this because it is kind of different, right? I mean, I've been exercising for 10 years before starting strength, but never have I ever been really disciplined about adding weight to the bar and progressing like that, like doing heavy lifts every other day. And there's a mental aspect to it that no one really talks about, which is it is actually quite tough to mentally prepare yourself for a heavy lift every time. I remember, doing exercising all throughout my life. Some days are just shitty workouts, right? You show up, you go on the treadmill for 5 minutes, and then you leave, right? You know what I mean? But just the act of showing up is enough to check the box to be like, yeah, I did something. Even though it's not a good day, I just did something. And that's perfectly fine. I was a big advocate for shitty lifts. Go out there, just show up. However, when it comes to starting strength or heavy training and lifting, it's actually a lot harder to do that. You need to kind of be on every time, and you can't really have a shitty lift. I had shitty lifts, but they're not as good. And so you need to, in order to progress, to keep PRing, to keep adding weight to the bar, you keep having to show up and be on. During the lift and after and the next day when you're on your rest day, you feel strong as hell. You're watching your form. I'm watching my videos and going yeah, look at that, and look at me lifting up 370 pounds, right? But then the day of, right? The day of the next lift, I got to squat heavy again. It's the morning of, before the lift, you're anxious, you're delaying it, you want to do it later, you don't want to do it, you don't want to get it done, there's a mental aspect to it that you have to kind of psych yourself up for. Doing that consistently, having that mental aspect and really honing in on that has been so beneficial. And I love it. I actually have to say, I come from a team sports kind of background. I used to play hockey. I still play hockey, actually, I should say, but as a goalie, right? So mental in hockey as a goalie is very important. And so lifting, that never crossed my mind that'd be an aspect of it. But now it's every time you go to do a PR, that's a weight you've never done before. And you knew how heavy that last one was. You were almost going to black out on that last squat. So now you're going to go with it 5 pounds more. So it's a little bit tough to be okay, go do it, try it. Because listen, the worst thing that happen is that you have to, you don't make it, right? And so you miss it. You try to hit it every time. And so that was something that I never really heard anyone else discuss, but it's something that to watch out for, just to make sure that you're prepared for the mental side, just to be ready to get it done. Another thing that I wanted to say as well too, something that really helped me, especially towards the end of my strength training, for 8 months consistently, I was just getting strong just to be strong. But when I decided to sign up for my first powerlifting meet, which is actually this weekend, I'm going to Chicago for my first powerlifting meet ever. I'm really excited about that. I signed up for about 3 months ago, and the second I signed up for it, the training changed. Now it became, there's an end date where I have to perform. I want to be as strong as possible. And the reason why I signed up for it was because, I realized that a lot of endurance athletes, marathon runners, Ironman, they have something to train for, right? They are training for a marathon. They are training for an Ironman. And I wanted that. I didn't want to just train to be strong because it's hard to be motivated by that, but to have a time, an end date where I have to show up, perform, be strong, set some PRs if I can. That to me was really enticing. And so the second I signed up for a powerlifting meet, it really changed the way I tackled, my training, my eating. I slept a little bit better too. I pulled back a little bit from drinking, not completely, which maybe I will in the next meet. but it said something for me to have something to work towards. And so if you're considering doing that, I would highly recommend it as well. I haven't done the powerlifting meet, so I don't know how it's going to go yet, but just to have something to work towards was really beneficial. Overall, would I recommend the starting strength program to someone who's just getting into strength training, weightlifting? Yes, hands down. It has absolutely changed a lot for me, physically, mentally. It's something that I would highly recommend. If you're able to try it, go through the novice linear progression. If you can afford to have a coach, that's great. If you can't afford to have a coach, but you really want the form checks, there's a great, Reddit thread that from Starting Strength of people that give form checks. I would highly recommend it because it really got me to a place where I feel strong, I feel good, I feel powerful, and I'm happy with the results. My overhead press needs a little bit more work. My bench needs a little bit more work, but so does it. So that's normal, right? If you're considering doing it, I say just try it. See what can go wrong. I hope you found this video helpful. I really made this for everyone else going through the program that wants to maybe get their feet wet and learn a little bit about what to see after a year later. If you have any questions for me, feel free to drop them below. I'd be happy to answer them for you. Good luck with your training, and yeah, let me know how it goes.